Everyone knows Janick Gers for being the most entertaining guitarist at Iron Maiden. But the truth is that he's much more than that, and throughout the years he's actually been a part of a gazillion other incredible projects. So today let's take a look at the dark side of Janick Gers and talk about all of them. Super quick guys, as always, please do not hesitate to comment on anything you hear or see in this video, and especially if you disagree with me, because the whole point of our Up the Irons series is of course to start a conversation. But alright, let's do it. Just like many of his counterparts, Janick Gers started playing guitar at a very young age, when he was just 11 years old. But unlike many others, for him that early period of playing in cover bands and at school gigs was rather short and almost unnoticeable. Because just several years later, in 1975, when Janick was just 18 years old, he got together with the future Tank drummer Gillan to form his first ever band that ultimately made him a professional, and that band was White Spirit. The first White Spirit lineup was a quintet of Gers, Gillan, lead vocalist Bruce Ruff, bassist Phil Brady, and keyboardist Malcolm Pearson. And just like many young bands of that period, they did sound rather close to such hard rock legends as Deep Purple or Uriah Heep. But at the same time, they were rather successful, and they did tour northeast of England rather heavily, and also even supported the iconic new wave British heavy metal band Samson on a tour. You know, that Samson, that also happens to be a band in which many other of future Iron Maiden band members did play at some point. Yet despite the touring success, it took White Spirit 5 years to be able to enter the studio for the very first time. And all the way in 1980, they recorded their first single titled Back to the Grind, that was released on the legendary Neat Records label and eventually became a huge success, even reaching number 3 position at the UK singles chart. And it was up to hearing that track when Deep Purple's Ian Gillan first heard of White Spirit and pretty much right away invited them to London to record their first ever studio album, which, just like many other young bands of that period, they decided to release as a self-titled one.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And it was later that same year when White Spirit performed on the Reading Festival and their High Upon High track appeared on the Metal from Muthas Volume 2 compilation, after which Janick and his bandmates supported Ian Gillan's solo project on its tour. The tour which was supposed to open new doors for the band, but because of rather strange incident in which the band crashed their tour bus and they simply did not have any money to buy a new one, it actually opened the doors for only one White Spirit member, as it did become a beginning of an absolutely new adventure for Janick Gers. In 1981, Ian Gillan's band titled, wait for it, Gillan, was on the peak of their success in Europe and Japan. Their albums Glory Road, released in 1980, and Future Shock, released in 1981, made it to positions 3 and 2 respectively in the United Kingdom official albums charts, and got a silver status in the United Kingdom, which of course allowed the band to tour extensively in Europe, Japan, and the United States. But the problem was that extensive touring and commercial success did not really result in much financial benefit to many of Gillan's band members, who were clearly not too happy about that. And finally, in 1981, guitarist Bernie Torm left Gillan right before their scheduled appearance on the Top of the Pops show amidst the German tour. And by the way, later Torm actually even sued Gillan for royalties and won the case. But in order to not waste any time and to not cancel any shows, Gillan brought in Janick Gers, whom he had already known about from his previous band, who toured together with Gillan just some month before that, which allowed Gillan to almost immediately continue touring and jump back into the recording studio. And just a month after that, in 1981, Gillan, with Gers on board, recorded their Double Trouble album, which was a huge success, partially because of Janick Gers. And by the way, after the 1982 appearance at the Castle Donington, Janick himself actually received a personal praise in the Sounds magazine, which said, "What a showman, what a technician, what a Wally." And yeah, he is.
Truth for truth, you take one.
And so, to capitalize on that success, in 1982, Gillan went back to the studio once again to record their album titled Magic. But The truth is that many fans actually believe that there was nothing really magical about it. In fact, to this very day, many Ian Gillan fans believe that it was a rather unsuccessful effort, with a completely misfiring AOR-ish single Long Gone, which did not resonate among the fanbase at all. And therefore, in December that same year, just month after a huge success of the previous records, Ian Gillan actually decides to disband his Gillan project. Partially because his voice simply needed some rest for the other, a major gig of his. But nevertheless, that did mean that Janick Gers, alongside the other members of the Gillan project, suddenly had an awful lot of time on his hands. During some of the Gillan recording sessions, the band members, minus Ian Gillan himself of course, got together for a quirky, eclectic and a humorous side project called the Split Knee Loons, which included Janick Gers, Bernie Thorne, bassist John McGoy and keyboardist Colin Towns, who together collected 20 songs, which in reality were actually much closer music and lyric-wise to Monty Python and the Goons than to Deep Purple. And more precisely, it was a bizarre mixture of music hall, barbershop, jazz, rock, surreal dialogue, and lots of humor. But the craziest thing is that all those 20 songs, which were originally written just for fun, were actually eventually recorded. Some of them, recorded still before Gers joined Gillan, were released in 1981 as a special collector's EP. And eventually all 20 of those pieces of fun and musical humor can actually be heard on the Looney Tunes album released in 2008. And here's the thing, if you are an Iron Maiden fan and you still have never heard that one, do it right after watching this video. Believe me, you won't be disappointed.
She was a real two-timer.
At some point in the 1980s, Janick Gers seriously considered hanging up his guitar and becoming a teacher. Yes, the dancing and prancing bloke with long blonde hair and a Stratocaster could have easily ended up in a classroom teaching children. Oh, how lucky those children would have been. But that could actually have happened. After Gillan disbanded, Janick decided to not do anything with music and decided to go to university and study sociology and English literature so he could become a teacher. But in 1985 he got a call from producer Jonathan King, the same guy who actually discovered Genesis and produced their first album, From Genesis to Revelation. In mid-80s, King got a genius idea of creating a supergroup consisting of the new wave of British heavy metal legends. And so he gathered a lineup full of stars, including former Iron Maiden drummer Clive Burr and vocalist Paul Di'Anno, former Whitesnake and future Black Sabbath bassist Neil Murray, and former Def Leppard guitarist Pete Willis. And of course he did want Janick Gers as a second guitarist. And that band, as known to everyone who's not new to this channel, was of course called Gog Magog.
You are in hell. Think of me.
And by the way, if you're not familiar with this band, well, that most likely means that you're actually not subscribed to this channel. So if this is true, well, I would be very happy if you would consider subscribing to the Metal Pilgrim channel right now. Let's continue building this amazing heavy metal community together. But nevertheless, back to Gog Magog. The band recorded only one EP, I Will Be There. Just 3 songs, 2 of which were composed by King himself, and one, the title song, by a well-known songwriter and former Argent lead vocalist and guitarist Ross Ballard. And the truth is that, as Paul Di'Anno himself later confirmed, they all did that just for the money. And since the EP, in all honesty, did not get any commercial success, King actually lost interest in this project fairly quickly. And just weeks after that, Gog Magog ceased to exist. But still, it did become the first band in which Janick Gers actually shared the studio with some Iron Maiden guys. Although the ex-ones.
The girls all look the same, the money's been gone. I'm looking at every picture, heard every song.
Pretty much every Iron Maiden fan knows that Janick Gers is a football fan. Yet unlike Steve Harris, he is actually a fan of the Hartlepool United team from his hometown and is a Bulls season ticket holder. And it was actually right there on the stadium when sometime in the late 80s, during a football match, Janick Gers met Derek Fish Dick, of course known to many as a frontman of a new prog rock band, Marillion. And so after a short chat, Janick Gers was actually invited by Fish to attend a Marillion show at Wembley, where he, Bruce Dickinson and Nico McBrain joined the boys on stage to perform not only some of the Marillion songs, but also covers, including the infamous All the Young Dudes.
Oh man, I need TV when I got T-Rex.
And right after that fun underwater, Fish actually invited Janick to play guitar on his solo project, with Gers eventually writing and recording one song for Fish's debut solo album, Vigil in a Wilderness of Mirrors, released in 1990, called View from the Hill. And the truth is that the chemistry between the boys was actually so strong that Janick Gers was about to go on the road together with Fish. Yet everything changed when Janick Gers received a phone call from nobody else but Bruce Dickinson, who invited him to join yet another solo project. In case you guys didn't know that, Janick Gers and Bruce Dickinson had known each other for a very long time, way before they started playing music. Like from their school days. And if we're talking about that, well, Janick also knew all of the Iron Maiden band members as well and often played football with them. So when Bruce called him up in 1990, he gladly accepted the offer to help him kickstart his solo career. Back in 1989, a Zomba record label asked Bruce to make a song for the next part of the iconic horror series A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. And it was on that track when Bruce Dickinson first teamed up with Janick Gers. And that song is, of course, the well-known to every Iron Maiden fan, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. A project which would eventually expand to a full-length studio album by Bruce titled Tattooed Millionaire. But the fate of Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter was not as simple as many had thought. Iron Maiden mastermind Steve Harris heard it, suggested that it could be a great Iron Maiden song, and convinced Bruce to not release it on his solo album. And eventually Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter was re-recorded for the Iron Maiden's No Prayer for the Dying album, although you can actually still hear the original version of the 2001 The Best of Bruce Dickinson compilation. The original version, which, well, let's all be honest here, was not as successful as many hoped it would be, as it did receive a Golden Raspberry Anti Award for Worst Original Song, which Bruce Dickinson did almost agree with, as even he himself did point out that the Maiden version was far superior. But nevertheless, it was that song that kicked off Bruce Dickinson's solo endeavor. And in May of 1990, Bruce Dickinson's first solo album, Tattooed Millionaire, finally saw the light of day. By the way, produced by the mighty Chris Tsangarides, which of course is better known for working with another legendary heavy metal band. But nevertheless, the truth is that Tattooed Millionaire was pretty much entirely composed by Bruce Dickinson and Janick Gers. And it was during those recording sessions when Janick Gers was actually invited to the Iron Maiden edition to replace Adrian Smith, which of course he did. And the rest, as we all know, is history. By the way, guys, it's no secret that Fear of the Dark is actually one of the most beloved Iron Maiden songs released with Janick Gers in the band. So I guess it's kind of ironic that I'm wearing a t-shirt called No Fear of the Dark today, which of course is inspired by the legacy of our favorite bands, including Iron Maiden. So if you would like to rock one and represent the Metal Pilgrim community at the upcoming Iron Maiden tour next year, I'll be more than happy to send it pretty much anywhere across the world. And thank you guys for all your support of this show. So that's about it. These are all Janick Gers projects outside of Iron Maiden, all of which also happened to happen before he actually joined the band. As the truth is that after he joined Iron Maiden, he actually dedicated his life to this band. And to this very day, he remains the only Iron Maiden member who did not record with any side projects in the past 35 years. The only one! And to this very day, many fans, for some weird reason, still ask a question whether Janick Gers was the right choice for Iron Maiden back in 1990. And the truth is that, at least to me, the question is abso-freaking-lutely yes. Because if we take a look at the early days of Janick Gers, we will see how versatile of a guitar player he actually is. And when Janick Gers joined Iron Maiden in 1990, he actually did help this band to survive through the hardest decade of its existence, while helping co-write in some of the most kick-ass songs the band has recorded in the 1990s. And when it comes to the band's reunion days, well, in my opinion, the whole idea of Iron Maiden's reunion and why it actually has worked the way it did was because they reunited all of Iron Maiden in its strongest and the most complete form possible. And no, this success of reunion with Bruce Dickinson would not have been possible without Adrian Smith coming back to the band, as well as it would not have been possible without Janick Gers being a part of that reunited lineup. Because in my opinion, every one of those guys is equally just as important in making this one of the greatest heavy metal band on the planet. But anyways, which is your favorite of the non-Iron Maiden projects by Janick Gers, and do you enjoy watching Janick on stage? Because the truth is that I absolutely love doing that. But what about you? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and we'll prevail. Slava Ukraini!